sorry, guys. I got so much stuff that sometimes I get confused because I'm stupid like that.
Mr. Tony Atlas,
Yeah,
thank you for joining us.
what's going on, everybody?
Looking good there, T. You look good, brother.
Sometime in the wrestling world, we get what you call the big head, and we start believing our own publicity. Sasha Banks, Becky Lynch had one hell of a opportunity. They would be nowhere without the WWE. I would be nowhere if it wasn't for the WWF, NWA, and all the people that helped me. I wrote in my book, my success in life, I owe to thousands and thousands of people. My success. My failure, I only owe to myself. It may not hurt Sasha Banks and Becky Lynch for what they did now. Down the road, when they get old and gray like me, they're going to look back on that. And the first thing they're going to say, what a freaking idiot. Plain and simple. There's so many people laying up in this world. I worked independent circuit a lot. And there's so many independent wrestlers that would love that opportunity. And we don't got to the place that we got a good opportunity. People treat us right. And my mom said, you never bite the hand that feeds you. Vince McMahon made Sasha Banks what she is. He made Becky Lynch what she's in. They owe Vince McMahon a great deal of gratitude. In the world of wrestling, I know people talk about the new group, the AEW, TNA, and tell you wrestle for the WWE, you're not in the business. You're really not. Every great name that is out here in the wrestling world came from WWE. That is the bedrock of pro wrestling. Vince McMahon, good or bad, saved the wrestling business. There was no way the wrestling business could have continued the way it was. So he created a way where he could keep wrestling going, and not only keep wrestling going, but put it in a position where we could compete against other major sports.
Sure.
We could compete against football. We could compete against basketball. We could compete against baseball. And we never had the opportunity before without Vince McMahon. And I feel that it's an absolute honor. It's an honor for me, Tommy Wildfire Rich, or any wrestler to get this opportunity to be on the Martin Farrell show.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you.
You know, Martin, you guys are keeping us guys alive. I appreciate what the WWE done for me, and I appreciate what Martin and the Farrell not only do for me, but do for all the wrestlers. And I think Sasha Banks and all these people, they lost appreciation.
Any thoughts on the passing of Dan Marotti from Boston Wrestling, Tony?
Well, as y'all well know, me and Dan, we did not leave on good terms. I think what Dan did to me was uncalled for. But in the Bible it says, forgive and forget. The reason that God tells us that, because when you forget, until you forget, it keep hurting you. So in order for me to heal my pain, I had to erase him from my mind. I came to the Martin Farrell show, and I expressed myself and how I felt about what he was doing. And to me, it was over. But I do feel not happy about his passing. You know, because he never got a chance to redeem himself. Not that I would have worked for him again, because I was done with him.
Okay.
I would not have worked for him, but I'm not happy with his passing. Let's put it that way. You know, I'm kind of sad that such a young man had to leave so early, before he grew up to learn how to appreciate what he had and be more respectable towards others. Like he started attacking you guys because y'all was trying to help me, which I felt was wrong.
Okay.
I mean, neither one of y'all ever did anything to Dan Morella. There was no reason for Dan to attack Marty or to attack the Pharaoh. Well, y'all never did nothing to him. But we all make our own bed, and we the one had to lie in it. He made his bed. He left out of here not a very likable person. So I kind of sad that he didn't stay around long enough to grow up, to be appreciative of the position he had, and be more appreciative of the guests that travel and work with him. You know what broke up our relationship was over $100.
$100.
Yeah. Yeah. When COVID hit, my prices on rental cars went up. I told Dan I can't afford to pay that much for rental car.
Okay.
I said, just throw me $100 for the rental car. Didn't want to do it. You know, he felt that I owe him something. You know? And like I said, I'm sad about his passing. You know, I'll be sad if anybody passed, you know, regardless if I like them or not. Because life is precious. Because when you lose your life, you lose everything.
Yeah.
You lose everything. And I'm sure he had family and people that loved him and cared about him. And it's the ones we leave behind that it hurt the most. The ones we leave behind, like something happened to me, the people that going to get hurt the most are going to be my wife, my kids and my grandkids. They're going to be hurt the most. There'll be some fans hurt, but not as much as my wife, you know.
How about the real Dan Marotti, though? Of course, the fans, and he had plenty of them with Boston Wrestling, they see the Dan Marotti on the presentation. What was he like in real life to you? I mean, did he change over the years? I mean, who was the real Dan Marotti to Tony Atlas?
He put him in the same category as Sasha Banks. Sometimes we lose appreciation. It's kind of like your mom. She feeds you, clothed you, raised you, gave birth. You grow up, and you start disrespecting her. And that's pretty much Sasha Banks, Becky Lynch, and Dan Marotti, and Tony Atlas fell in the same boat. We was raised, nurtured, and taken care of. And then we turned on our parents. The ones that did the most for us is the ones that we turn on the most. Because who done more from Sasha Banks than Vince? Who?
Can't think of anyone.
Who traveled more to Dan Morella's show and did more for Dan Morella than me?
Understood.
And I tried to make it reasonable for him. I mean, I didn't try to price gouge him or anything. I tried to work for the lowest possible price. And I do that with a lot of people that work with me. You know, I just want to make enough money where I don't feel stupid at the end of it, but I don't want to put you in the poorhouse doing it. You know, that's just how I do business. And people that work with me, you know, I negotiate a price with them that is reasonable, that I think. I don't ask people to pay extra stuff. You know, like when I travel, I pay for my own gas, I pay for my own rental car. I don't ask the promoter, well, I want this, plus you got to pay for my rental car, plus you got to pay for this, plus you got to pay. I don't do all that to people. Because then I'm not, I'm doing good. But the people that book me is not.
You know, there was one thing that we nice. I guess we should recognize is that you and Marotti together on those shows entertained many people through some very, very hard times.
Yep.
So both of you should be respected for what you accomplished there. You know, a lot of people out there were going, you know, with COVID and everything going on, their lives are very tough, and you did a wonderful job, and Marotti together entertaining these fans. So, I mean, as bad as things ended up, there is some silver lining, I guess, maybe.
Well, you know, since I've been in the wrestling business, the one person in the wrestling business that shows the fans more respect than any wrestler I ever met in my life, that's Vince McMahon Jr. if you want to lose your job, refuse to sign an autograph.
Really?
I have seen Vince run. He's running late, and he got the big two suitcases in his hand. He's running to the limousine, and somebody would just walk up to him and say, "Vince, can you sign that?" He would drop them suitcases and sign.
Really?
Vince McMahon would never say no to a fan. Never.
That's amazing. Okay.
Because he tell us guys all the time, without them, there's no us.
There's nothing.
You know? That's why he called it the wrestling universe. He didn't like the idea of calling them fans because a fan is like a follower. He said the wrestling universe, he said that make the people feel more a part of it.
It's pretty smart.
Instead of a follower.
It's pretty smart.
Like a groupie, a fan, you know. So the wrestling universe, you are a part of the WWE. He even sold stock to fans. You take $10 and buy a WWE stock. That, 10 years from now, growing to $50,000. And it started at $5. So he always catering to the fans. And more so than the wrestlers, which is what made him great. And I think the fans appreciate his appreciation of them.
So, Young Rock, the Tony Atlas character, has finally appeared, season 2. Now, again, we've known you for a long time, and we've met other wrestlers and heard different stories, so I'm sure, or I'm not sure, that the show exaggerates situations, but one of the major storylines in the Young Rock is the jealousy of Rocky Johnson of Tony Atlas. Would that be accurate?
Yes. I was told that by Chief J. Strongbow. When Vince Sr. was going to team us up together, Chief went to Vince and said, "Do not put Tony with Rocket. He going to destroy that kid. Put Tony back with SD." But Senior said, "Yeah, but look how good they look together." But see, people don't realize Rocky would start in the business in the 60s. I started in the 70s. And my mother said, never judge a person until you walk a mile in their shoes. And I sat here and I watched the program, and I said, I wonder how I would have felt if the table was turned. That I have been in the business for 10 years. Here this young kid that only been in the business to half the time I've been in the business, and he's getting all the breaks. If you got to realize, Rocky never had a big break until they teamed him up with me. I had big breaks in Georgia, Charlotte, many places. This was Rocky for all the years he been in his business. And this is a true story here. If SD was lying, he'd tell you the same thing. He called Vince Sr. earlier when I was there. He wanted to come in. And Vince Sr. told him, said, well, I got Tony Atlas and I got SD Jones. If one of them should leave, you could take their place. Well, of course, I left. So Rocky took my place. My first night back, Vince Sr. come to me. He asked me this. He said, well, I got Rocky now. I go, yes, sir. He said, do you want him to stay? He said, if you want me to get rid of him, I get rid of him. That's what Vince Sr. said to me. Okay. I said, oh, no. I said, I don't want nobody to lose their job. And Vince said, oh, great, because we were thinking about making you tag team partners. That's when Chief told him what I just told y'all. He said, don't put Tony with Rocky, he's going to mess him up. Sure enough, my first night back from AWA, Vern Gagne, my first night, Vince told, back up. I just got back from L.A., Los Angeles. Sorry, guys. I got so much stuff that sometimes I get confused because I'm stupid like that. But anyway, I just got back from L.A. And Vince said, do you want to go back to Los Angeles and get your car? Rocky said, hey, we're going to be tag team partner. He don't need to go back and get his car. He could ride with me. Plus, I got 2 cars. He could use one of me. He said, oh, great. Thank you, Rocky. So I rode from back to New Haven, Connecticut, with Rocky Johnson. Rocky dropped off in the hotel. And the next day we supposed to be in Hartford. He said, "I'll pick you up at 4:00, kid." He said, it's about an hour drive. He said, "But I like to get there a little bit early. We're going to stop at Church and Chicken and get some chicken." I said, "Oh, great, Rocket, great." 4:00 come around, no Rocket. 5:00 come around, no Rocket. Finally at 6:00, I called Vince and went, "Get a cab." I jumped in the cab. I took a cab from New Haven all the way to Hartford, Connecticut. Cost me $270 bucks. Rocket said, "Hey, where were you? I looked all over for you." See, he wanted to get rid of me, because that was his first big break in the business. And without me, he was the man. So Rocket never really got a real big break in this business. The first black guy to ever get a big break in this business was probably, a huge break, outside of me, was JYD.
Okay.
JYD.
Mm-hmm.
You see, because when he wrestled Sweet Element Diamond, the territory was Florida, so nobody knew about him that didn't live in Florida. You go to Georgia, they didn't know who he were. You go to California, they didn't know who he were. But they knew who I were before I got there because of Georgia chapter TBS. I was on the first cable, wrestling cable show.
Right.
Went into 40. The only states that it didn't go into was Alaska and Hawaii. That's the only place that people didn't know Tony Atlas. That's why when Vince brought me in, he didn't have to promote me. He never had to promote me because of Georgia. Same thing with Tommy Wildfire Rich. Tommy never really wrestled nowhere but Georgia, but everybody know him because Georgia Championship Wrestling TBS at that time went everywhere. So Dusty Rhodes, Terry Funk, a lot of guys would come from other territories just to work on that TV so they could get more popular. Bruiser Brody, God bless his soul, before he passed away, he said, "Tony, people know me in Japan, people know me in Minneapolis and New York. They may know me a little bit in Japan and Puerto Rico." He said, "But you known in more places than I'm known because of that television." So I know Rocket wrestling in other territories, they made him champion and stuff. But what I mean by a big break, where you're on a big scale, and that the largest territory during that time was AWA, WWWF, and Mid-Atlantic. There was the biggest. That was it. Vern Gagne territory went from Minneapolis all the way to California. See? So you were a champion in AWA. You was known in many states because they went. Like me and Jumping Jim Bronzell, we wrestled the War Warrior at the Showboat in Las Vegas. That was all part of the AWA territory. But all the what Rocky worked small territories. This was the first big territory. He never worked Mid-Atlantic. Not on top. And that was, about the third biggest. AWA, he never made a big splash in AWA. So that was the first time he was in what I call a big territory. Bigger.
Sure.
If you worked for WWE back in the day, all your magazine came out of New York. Bill After, George Napolitano.
Yep.
They was all New York guys. So in order to get on the cover of the magazine, you got to wrestle in New York.
Right.
Or Mid-Atlantic. Something like that. That's why Dusty Rhodes and them traveled to different territory so they could get more popular.
Tony, you obviously traveled the world, and as we know, of course, you wrestled in Puerto Rico. You mentioned Bruiser Brody before, so I have to ask you this because I've always wondered, and please don't assault the questioner, but Dutch Mantel's role in all of this, it bothers me. Can you tell me your gut read or your what does your heart say? Was Dutch Mantel involved in any aspect of Bruiser Brody's brutal and unjust murder in any way?
I doubt it.
You doubt it? Please
I really
explain.
doubt that, yeah.
Please explain. Why? Because there's rumors, and I just would like you to address them if you can.
I doubt that. First of all, he was scared to death of Brody.
Okay. But that doesn't stop somebody from that wouldn't stop somebody from potentially conspiring.
And I think that he was Brody's friend.
Okay.
But back in the wrestling, Mad Dog Vachon put it better than anybody over here. Mad Dog Vachon. Hey, kid, wrestling's a dog-eat-dog business, and you have to get your bite out of it. Klondike Bill said, kid, when you finish this business, if you have one friend, consider yourself lucky. See, wrestlers are self-employed. And not many wrestlers, no matter what happened to you, did not want to jeopardize their job for you. And I think the thing with Dutch, he had to make a decision to stand by Brody or to lose his job. And Dutch was not getting booked that much. I mean, this was Dutch bread and butter down there. I mean, that's when nobody was using Dutch.
Okay.
That's why he went to Puerto Rico. Carlos was taking care of Dutch.
Okay.
So Dutch is not going to blow an opportunity for himself because of what happened between him and another wrestler. Wrestlers are not friends. They're business associates.
Any truth to the rumors?
We become friends after our career.
Any truth to the rumors with the stock or the company and stuff? Did Dutch have any interest in the company purchasing a part of the company?
No, but Brody did. Brody told me that moment.
Okay.
Brody said,
get it cleared up.
That he's going to take care of me because me and Brody didn't get along in Texas when he was a booker there. When George Scott left,
right. Brody
screwed me, and he screwed the Ultimate Warrior. When I left Texas, I went to Puerto Rico. Ultimate Warrior, he was a Dingo Warrior at the time.
Mm-hmm.
He left Texas, and he went to WWF.
Right.
And became the Ultimate Warrior from being the Dingo Warrior. So, but the reason that we left, because we were not getting booked. I mean, I was there for 2 months, and they didn't book me for 2 months. And Brody was the booker, which I blamed Brody for. And then later, Brody told me that he had nothing to do with it. He said, but kid, I'm going to take care of you here. He said, I waited a long time to get in down here. I think he gave him something like $20,000 or $30,000. He wanted to buy Gorilla Monsoon shares. See, Gorilla Monsoon has shares in Puerto Rico, and I think Brody wanted to buy them. I think they were the shares he bought. Mm. And then, but they took his money, but they didn't give him the share. I'm going to say something to me. If I don't get my money, I'm just going to beat the hell out of everybody here. Mm. Mm. Now you got to remind you, they left him at the hotel. He was the main event that night. They left him at the hotel.
Okay.
And guess who he was riding with? Jose. I asked him, I said, who are you waiting on? He said, I'm waiting on Jose. They rode together the whole week. They would have got it the whole week.
The guy who eventually stuck him in the shower. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Stephanie McMahon tickled me one day. She said, Tony, you've been hired and fired by the WWF more than any wrestler we ever had. And it was true.
You have the record?
I got
Very
the record for
Tony.
being fired and hired more than any wrestler they ever had.
All right.
So with me, I kept screwing up, but they kept trying to, and what a lot of guys said, well, the only reason they did it to him because you was money. I made them money. I mean, I was ahead of my time. There was no muscle man that wrestled back in them days that could move and do things. Most muscle men, they did a strongman act. They didn't wrestle. They didn't throw drop kicks. I don't think anybody ever seen Alvin Puskett or Superstar Billy Graham throw a drop kick. But Tony Atlas did. Now, Bobby Lashley, I think he's outstanding.
He's pretty fantastic.
To be a muscle man, the way he moves
amazing,
with all that muscle, you know, he's freaking outstanding. Brock Lesnar, I think he's freaking outstanding.
He's amazing.
Of all the wrestlers in it, right? A Roman Reigns, that's another big muscle guy that could move around the ring. We used to be impressed years ago when we had a fat guy that could move, like King Kong Bundy or Bam Bam Bigelow.
Right, Bam Bam.
The best I ever seen in my life. I don't want to say fat because today is not a good word to call people obese.
Okay.
What is it?
Large.
Overweight.
How about large?
Heavy person. Heavy. That's a good word.
Okay.
And y'all got to look him up one day. His name is Crusher Jerry Blackwell.
Oh, Crusher Blackwell, sure.
You know he threw drop kicks?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
And this in his 70s.
And he's 400 plus, yeah.
400 plus.
Yep.
And would drop kick you right in the face. And we thought that was, my goodness, Because he said one night, he said, Tony, I'm going to drop kick you tonight. I started laughing. As I was laughing, his foot was in my face.
You've got the record for the most terminations at the WWE. If you pick up the phone and call Vince, does he answer? Do you get Vince on the phone quickly?
No.
No. You'd have to work at it a couple of days to get Vince to call you back? I'm just curious.
I never tried.
You've never called? They always call you? They bring you back and then they fire you. Then they call you again. Is that how this works?
Yeah.
Never once gave Vince a phone call.
No.
Very interesting.
Tommy Wildfire Rich is not my friend. He's my brother.
There you go.
His mother seen us together, and she said, this is your brother. You're a brother. Me and Tommy Rich were like brother. We did everything together. We fought together. We got drunk together. We got laid together. When Tommy Rich came through that curtain, young, good-looking. You seen pictures of him when he was young.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he was the first Dwayne Johnson.
He's a rock star.
Just a beautiful young kid. He came through that door and the frickin' women went nuts.
I bet.
Tommy could not get to the ring. His first night, he could not make it to the ring.
Wow.
They had to get people to move the women back to let him in the ring. They wanted to rape him going to the ring. He just walked through the door, and the place went freaking ape.
Amazing.
Barnett was standing there. I had a mask on then. I was black at it. He said, can you believe this? He said, they didn't even see him wrestle yet.
Right. They love
Because
him.
all wrestlers were big, rugged. You know, we were not pretty people.
Right.
You know, if you were pretty, different, you know, like we call Ric Flair a pretty boy.
Right.
But Tommy was a pretty boy.
Right.
So anyway, make a long story short, Abdullah started getting heat. Now, for the fans that don't know what heat means, Abdullah started beating up on
poor Tommy.
On Tommy.
The kid.
And Tommy had this bright, silky blonde hair that turned red.
Ooh.
The hair turned completely red.
You're making the women very angry beating him up like this.
Oh,
yeah.
Ole Anderson ran to the back. I just finished my match. I wrestled the Missouri Mauler.
Okay.
That night. And he said, Tony, get your black ass out there and run Abdullah off. He said, we're going to have a ride. The people was coming to the ring to get Abdullah.
They're getting crazy.
Abdullah was shaking. Yeah. He was scared to death. He was scared to death. So
where's my
I put my mask on, and I supposed to tie it so it don't come off. Well, I forgot to tie it.
Uh-oh.
So I run to the ring.
Wardrobe malfunction.
Abdullah, when I looked at Abdullah, Tommy was a hell of a seller. That's what got him over. The way he was a hell of a seller.
Right.
So Tommy's soul is so well that the people wanted to kill Abdullah. Abdullah could not get out of the ring. So when I jump in the ring, Abdullah's eyes was as big as 256 piece. And Abdullah looked at me and said, slam me. And he'd never been slammed before. So I picked Abdullah up to give him a slam, but because he was so big and my mask was tight, my mask came out.
Wardrobe malfunction.
And I had a big afro. Now imagine this, my head is like this.
Poof.
Yeah.